Good afternoon. I'm Roger Noyes, Director of Communications here at the New York State Office for the Aging. And today we're really excited to talk about a really concrete topic, a way to engage the public en masse for pedestrian safety. As we have in the show description, you're the eyes and ears of your community, so we rely on you to be able to spot pedestrian safety issues in the community. And the individuals that are going to make that happen and help facilitate that are our friends from AARP New York, specifically State Director Beth Finkel, who is with us today. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Hi, Roger. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We're really excited to talk about your Walk Audit initiative, which is enlisting individuals, and I think of it this way, as sort of a crowdsourcing, right, to spot pedestrian safety concerns in their community. This is an issue area that NYSOFA and AARP as well have long been concerned about. Right now, we're engaged in the Master Plan for Aging process at the state level, and safety and security, the built environment are all parts of that discussion, and something that's been a part of the discussion for a long time with Livable New York in 2011, that initiative, and the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, all sorts of programs and initiatives that have happened in New York State to focus on this issue. And I just want to highlight just some data real quick from our community assessment survey of older adults. We conducted a survey at NYSOFA 2023, got 27,000 responses, which was amazing. And while 60% of respondents said that the quality of transportation in the community was great, they rated it very highly. When it came to ease of travel by walking or biking, the ratings were much lower, around 64% or as low as 54%. So clearly this is an issue we have to focus on. And Beth, we're so glad that you're here to join us to talk about what you're doing at AARP to make that happen. So welcome. How are you this afternoon?
I'm great.
Great. So we're going to talk about your walkability audits. Tell us, first of all, what is a walk audit? It's such an interesting concept. So tell us about what it is.
It's such a fancy name. I hope it's not off-putting to people, because really what it is, we all have intersections in our neighborhoods that we may be concerned about. It may be for us to get across the street because the cars are whizzing by and there's no stoplight or stop sign, or it could be there's no curb cuts, and so you're walking along with a stroller or a walker, or you're pushing a baby carriage and there's no curb cut, and that's not good. We want to encourage people across the whole country really to get out and walk, because we know it's so healthy for you on so many levels, right? They're even showing that it's helping with brain health to get out and walk quite a bit. We know it's good for your heart and everything else, but if you don't have a neighborhood that you feel safe enough to walk in, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So AARP has been looking at intersections for a lot of years now, and we put together this tool, which is really simple. It's called a walk audit, and it basically gives you boxes that you can check to evaluate what's there. And I gave some examples. Is there a curb cut? Is it marked with little bumps so that, if you can't see the curb cut, you can feel it with your shoes? What are the crosswalks like? Are they painted clearly? It's all sorts of different areas that you can check the box and say yes or no, or needs improvement or whatever. And that's really what a walk audit is. And the beauty is you can do it by yourself. You could do it with your friends and neighbors. And then we can make some change so that we all can feel more confident walking in our neighborhoods.
I love the few things that you said there. So for one, you're AARP New York. We're in the State Office for Aging. Obviously, we work in the aging space, right? But you mentioned an intergenerational component to this as well. So can you reflect on that a little bit? Why this is important really for all generations, and why are we concerned about all generations if our space is, ostensibly about older adults?
Yeah, well, when you look at the mortality rates, people being hit like motorists, it's very scary, and a lot of children are obviously hit. However, if an older adult is hit, there's a higher mortality rate. So we're concerned on it for all different levels. We we all share our space. We all share our neighborhoods. That's what makes our neighborhoods so rich, right? Because I don't know about you, but when I'm out walking and I see kids on their bikes or on their scooters, or I see a mother pushing a new baby in a baby carriage, it makes me smile. It makes everybody part of that community. Or the joggers going by, it's all age groups need to share the space. And I think what we all realize is that when our roads were originally built, when our suburbs were originally laid out, it was really laid out with the motorist in mind, right? We wanted to make sure people could drive from downtown out to the suburbs, so that they could get to work in an efficient manner. But really, not a lot of consideration was taken for the pedestrians at the time, or the bike riders. And I think over time, we've all developed and we all understand now how important that is. And it's time to catch up and make sure our streets are safe for everybody.
And that gets to all the elements of healthy aging. One thing you touched upon was social isolation, getting out there, engaging with the community. We know that at the Office for the Aging, we're very concerned about the issue of social isolation, which has a health
Yes.
impact of smoking about a pack of cigarettes a day, right? So it's got a health impact component to it. And so not only making the environment more safe so that you can get out and walk and exercise and stay engaged, but the actual audit itself is kind of promoting that as well, right? Like getting people out and exercising. And
Yes, but even more than that, because there's a way for you to be a change agent. You do this audit. We want you to share it with us, because we're going to put all the reports together, and we're going to do a report for localities and also for the state, but also for yourselves. I mean, if you have an intersection, if you all are concerned, certainly put something in the chat and say, yes, you're concerned. We'd love to get a sense of what you're all feeling out there. But if you do a walk audit, not only can you submit it to us, but you can print it or download it, and you can bring it to your local council member. You could bring it to the county exec. You could bring it to your local police precinct. I mean, there are so many really great public servants who are out there who really care about making communities better. And the more they hear from their constituents, the more that they really want to fulfill this. Like if a street is going to get redone anyway, might as well put the best components of street safety in there. And by identifying these things through these walk audits, we can be partners with our governmental officials, and really make the change happen.
so if you're just joining us, we're with Beth Finkel from AARP New York. We're talking about their walk audit initiative, which is, again, engaging the community to go out there, fan out, look for pedestrian safety issues in the community and sort of flag them. So let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of this. So we talked about what the walk audit is. This is happening at a particular time of the month, right? That you kind of want people to concentrate on this?
Yeah, well, we're going to start it on November 14th. We're going to do a big kickoff in a number of locations across the state. And we want other people to join us, both on that date, but all through that time period through November 22nd. And by the way, if the weather's not so good that day on the 21st or 22nd, and you want to do it on the 23rd or 24th, please go ahead and do it. We don't want anybody going out and getting a head cold, because we suggested, or slipping on ice that day. Right. So you can do it anytime that you would like. And again, you can do it by yourself. You can have a friend or a neighbor or maybe a grandchild come and join, because then you're teaching your grandchild civic engagement, and who's better to do that than those of us who've been around for a while. I was going to say it's way around the block, but yes, you can really show them your way around the block.
Yeah, and actually, as you're listening, if people out there are listening, if you want to put in the comments, you're hearing about this and for the first time, and it's kind of springing to mind some ideas about how you want to approach that. Put it in the chat, right? I love this idea of doing the intergenerational kind of focus, getting different generations together on this, and kind of inspiring me to want to do that as well myself. So I love that component of it. Beth, you mentioned some specific things that earlier in the program, curb cuts. What other types of things, like specifically, do you want people to be watching for?
if there is a traffic light,
Mhm.
does it really give you enough time to get across the street? Because
Yep.
just because, and that, by the way, is the cheapest thing that we can ask a local locality to do. Just adjust the timing on the light. It doesn't cost them any money to do that. And then you can take a breath and not feel that stress of diving across the street before that light changes, which, can be very disconcerting.
Right, right. And there's some tools and resources that people can use to kind of get started and, help guide them in this process.
Yes, if they go to that website, that arp.org/NYWalks, you can find first of all, you can find the tool, you can find the audit there, but you also can find the different resources that help you see what would be good things to improve. And also there's a way that you can share your findings, you can share your pictures. I know you just scroll down real quick, but if you go up a little higher, there where we were before, you can see it's actually a group of folks on Long Island, neighbors, who decided that their intersection out on Long Island was just not safe enough. So you know what? They called their local Department of Transportation and they asked them, would you come and walk with us? And you know what? They did.
Right.
And they took pictures and they filled out the audit and they were able to hand it right back to that local DOT official right there and then. It was very empowering. And hopefully this just happened recently, but we will be following up to see if something happened there, which I'm sure it will, because the local officials were really sincere. In that particular case, it was not a intersection that was in a local neighborhood. It was a bigger, like, commercial roadway,
Mhm.
and there weren't lights on every intersection, and the ones that there were in, the lines were not painted clearly, and the timing on the lights were not clear enough, were not
Mhm.
long enough. And so they were able to show this all in real time. Actually, some of the people borrowed walkers and wheelchairs from their friends and neighbors and walked those across so they could really illustrate that this is about everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's amazing as you dive into the things that you may not rise to your attention otherwise, but when you do it, like you mentioned some very specific things, and that just kind of come to you when your mind is sort of trained on this activity. So, and we know that older adults in particular have high rates of volunteerism. This is citizen action at its finest. So
yeah.
I could see people really getting out there and taking to the streets on this. So
That's right.
so do
That's the name of our campaign. Take it to the
you,
streets. Very good.
there's a song in there, right? Do you have any ideas for? And we talked a little bit about ways people can organize these. What are some things that people can do? Should they take elected officials with them? Like, what are some thoughts about how?
I, you can do this as informally and relaxed, or if you have a neighborhood civic association, you could invite them to join you. There's all different ways to do this, but I want to really emphasize that this is really simple. These walk audits don't take more than 10 minutes.
Okay,
10
that's good
minutes,
to
right?
highlight. Yeah, yeah, we want people to
Yeah,
know
so
that.
can
Yeah,
you imagine, because you took 10 minutes, you could really change the quality of life in your neighborhood. So I really recommend strongly that, people go on that site, that aarp.org slash New York Walks,
Mhm.
NY Walks, because you'll see how simple it is. And for those of you who might be very involved with your local neighborhood associations or your town councils or whatever, then, bring them into it. We're working in New York City, actually. We're working with a group called Transportation Alternatives. They have been monitoring pedestrian deaths and safety in New York for a very long time and advocating for it. They have another group that they work with called Families for Safe Streets,
Mhm.
which was founded by a mother and her mother when her son was 12 years old and chased a soccer ball across the street by a
Wow.
park in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and he was killed.
Oh.
And that mobilized them to create this organization called Families for Safe Streets. and they've made an amazing changes. So that's the more formal way of doing this. But then there's that much more like local, we own our streets. There are neighborhoods, and we can take 10 minutes out, please, to make them better so you feel safer. And you feel safer for your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, and yourselves.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we're with Beth Finkel from ARP New York. We're talking about their Walk Audit initiative. Just to sum up, it takes 10 minutes of your time. There's some tools and resources online to conduct a walk audit, and what it entails is going out in your community, spotting some pedestrian safety issues, and documenting them. And it's a way to mobilize, act together, and you can affect change. So we're going to take a quick break before we get to audience questions. We have at NYSOFA the largest nutrition program for older adults in the country. It relies on volunteers. So we just want you to watch this quick video, and we'll be back shortly. I love the vividness of that video produced by my colleague, Alex Hyatt. Thank you, Alex. He's also the producer of our program today. So we're going to take some audience questions here. So the first one we see, what if you, in November, this is sort of when this is all happening, when you would really want to focus the time, but what if someone can't do it in November? Can we do this at any time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Please do.
And there's, in addition to doing the walk audit, posting it, there's a form to post your results to social media. Just really, as you're doing this, broadcast it.
If you would like.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep it private to yourself and just do the audit and just submit it in, we're happy to get it that way also. The most important thing here is for us to get the real facts of what it's like on the ground so we can let local officials know exactly what's going on and where constituents are concerned so that they will take action on your behalf.
And so some constituents and individuals that are doing the walk audits probably will provide this information to local officials themselves. How's ARP facilitating the, the cataloging of the results to communities? Can you talk really briefly about that?
So we're going to be aggregating all the data. We really want to have it, first of all, at the state level, so we can work with state DOT, and I know that you guys do a lot of surveys on this stuff, and the data that you get, SOFA uses in so many different ways. But we want to share it with the legislature, state Senate, state assembly, so that they can see what their constituents are concerned about. And then we also, on the local level, as I said, here in New York, we're working with the New York City Department of Transportation, and I know in a lot of other localities we'll be doing that also and be sharing it.
Okay, great. And I guess this is sort of part and parcel to that last response. The best way to advocate with local officials, I guess, through this initiative, but generally about pedestrian safety concerns?
Okay, so we're the constituents. These are our neighborhoods. They have to face us at every election that they run. And I do believe most people go into this as being public servants because they truly want to serve. Roger, you're a good example of that, but working for the New York State Office for the Aging and wanting to get the best information out for people as they age. And that's what we want to do. So by being able to highlight intersections and what the issues are in those intersections and why people are concerned about it, we believe and we know, because as I said, ARP has been doing these surveys for years across the country, and we know that improvements have been made in so many areas, but there's a lot more to do, as I'm sure all of you know, because I know that many of you have found this in your own homes and communities.
And I just want to say before we forget, there's if you're watching this on Facebook, there's a share button. If you're on YouTube, you can grab the link, share it across channels. If this interests you, you want to share the information with people you know, send an email, just broadcast this as widely as you can. This is really important for people to mobilize on a mass scale for this kind of initiative. So just want to share that and remind people of that important point. We have another question here. Individuals with disabilities. So if you're in a wheelchair or have some other mobility device, any recommendations about how individuals can participate in this?
Yes, please participate. We
Right.
particularly need your viewpoint. If you're somebody who's vision impaired, that's really important to know. If there's an intersection near you that you don't feel safe in because it doesn't have what is needed for someone who's vision impaired, we need to know that. And it doesn't mean that what your level of vision impairment is it doesn't it needs to be safe for everyone. So if you are using a walker, we would love for you to do this walkability audit with your walker. If you use a wheelchair, we would love you to do that. If you have an aide or a family member who wants to walk you across that intersection that you all are particularly concerned about, that is so important to get that richness of information back about how people, all different types of people, experience how safe or not safe they feel. Many of you might even know that there's been a number of accidents in a particular street corner, and you're really concerned about that. So definitely, and as I said before, if you have a stroller or a baby carriage and it's a different walking when you're walking like that. If you have a young child who's just learning to ride their bike and you want them to be able to safely cross an intersection, bring them out there for it and see if they're comfortable, if you're comfortable with their safety on that intersection.
Well, Beth Finkel from AARP, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this conversation about this really important topic. We're going to be promoting this throughout the month of October into early November, but also throughout the year. And we'd love to hear more about outcomes and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just keep this conversation going. So thank you so much for joining us today. I also want to thank our production team, Alex Hyatt and Darren Boyson from behind the scenes who are making this production work as well as it does. So I appreciate all that they do and all that we do as a team. And we have a number of live streams coming up. Upcoming topics include Veterans Day. We're not airing the program on Veterans Day, but it's coming up before Veterans Day. And we're going to have the commissioner from the Department of Veterans Services. We have a session on food insecurity coming up, and also older adults and legal cannabis. So that will be a very interesting topic. So follow our Facebook and YouTube channels to learn more about those show dates. So I want to thank everyone again, and Beth specifically for joining us, and see you next time.
Hi, I'm Molly Ryan, and I'm a communications intern for the New York State Office for the Aging. I am so happy to be on board with this agency, and I'm for sure learning a lot. I have recently learned about the agency's YouTube channel, which has so many resources for older adults and their caregivers. There's a reason they have millions of views. Like and subscribe today.